Well, it's day 3, and I'm here to give you my list of area majority games and territory control games. Let's do it. So starting out, I want to say something about how we pick these games.
Yeah, definitely.
These aren't our favorite games. These are games that we recommend. We like these games. And a lot of times I like to pick games that we don't talk about quite as often.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my favorite territory control game is Forbidden Stars. Absolute favorite. It's probably like my 3rd favorite game of all time. And I didn't put it on this list for 2 reasons, because number one, you can't get it anymore because Fantasy Flight lost the Games Workshop license, so we won't see Forbidden Stars now or for the foreseeable future.
Right.
Secondly, I've talked about it a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, after starting this show, I have heard numerous times, I can't believe you didn't put this on your list because it's like your favorite. You love it. And I'm like, yeah, but I talk about it all the time. Yeah, like, I want to create interesting content, not something I've talked about like 5 million times on the show before.
We want to recommend something that they didn't get into, that they've never seen before, maybe.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun of doing this, I found, is it makes me think about games I haven't played in a while, and it brings back fond memories of them, and I realize how good they are, and I want to introduce people to these games. So, yeah, I agree 100%.
Here's the way I look at it, right? If you work in an office, you might have somebody that has a really good weekend, and then as new people come into the office, you hear that how good their weekend story was 6 times. So I try not to do that. I pick different stuff so you don't hear the how good was my weekend story over and over here and on the podcast and on the internet.
So that's exactly what my list is today. 3 games that we don't talk about quite as often, but I love them. So the first game I'm going to put on my list is a game called Exoplanets. Now, Chris, you've played Exoplanets with me before. I don't know that Steve ever did.
Nope.
But the way Exoplanet works is that there's a sun in the middle that has all these crystals in it. There's resources. And there's all these sort of areas of space that go out. Almost looks like a pinwheel. Almost,
yeah, it does. Yep.
Right? And there's tiles on them that they're the empty spaces. And what you're trying to do is create planets. And then you're trying to breed life on those planets by placing your amoebas on the planet. And if you get 4 amoebas on the planet, then sentient life grows from that. And where the area majority comes in, territory control technically with this one, is that all the players can be putting amoebas on these planets. And whoever gets to 4 first takes over the planet, puts their little sentient being down, and removes all the amoebas.
My amoebas eat your amoebas?
No.
Vegetarians.
It's a big giant pool, essentially.
But what's cool about it is that when you place the planet down, right, it can generate you some resources. You need to spend resources to do different things. And the tile that was there for the planet, the empty space, you take it into your hand, and it could be a victory point goal, or you can use it for like an ability. Like you could play the card or the tile to get an ability out of it. And this game was very simplistic as far as a territory control game goes. But I thought the strategies were just a ton of fun. It played in about an hour, but it got this full experience of resource management, of managing a hand of tiles and the territory control. And you have to go around the different planets. You're building these planets, and all the planets are different. It was such a fun game.
Every once in a while, there's a game that comes along where I say, or I get this sudden need to have someone else play it. Like I want to introduce this game to somebody else because it's so good. And I remember playing Exoplanets at Origins.
Yeah.
And I played it and I was like, oh man, I got to play this again. Like I'm like finding people that will play this game with me because it is so good. I think I played it with 2 other groups that Origins because it was a lot of fun. And the cool thing about it is you look at it and you read the rules and you're like, there's not much here. Like, it's just kind of like whatever.
I was actually disappointed when I read the rules. I was like, I thought it was going to be more than that. And I was like, well, I'll play it anyway because it seems neat anyway.
Yeah.
But then when we got into it,
I was just like whoa.
There was a crazy amount of depth for that almost nothing of rule set. Right?
Yeah. It's so good. It was so good.
Well, I'm going to have to try this game. It sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a good one.
You think I made Chris hunt people down and scare them?
What?
At the convention. You're like the homeless people at Origins.
I only went and talked to people that know me and know that I'm that weird, scary guy that hunts people down.
Instead of asking for change, you want an hour of their time.
Yeah. It's like, hey,
excuse me, sir, can you spare an hour?
Can you spare an hour to play a game with me? I'm lonely.
Well, that's a good one. Exoplanets. I highly recommend it. Excellent game. You don't hear anybody talking about it. I highly recommend checking it out, though. So my number 2 is one that, it's an older game that Fantasy Flight got the rights to put out and put out a reprint that was, some people say is better, some people say it's not better. I didn't play the original, but I played the Fantasy Flight one. It is called Mission Red Planet. Now, what this one is that you are scientists and different people that want to go to Mars and mine stuff on Mars. So you have all of these rocket ships, and the rocket ships tell you which territory on Mars you're going to go. And everybody has a hand of cards that are all the same. Everybody has the same hand of cards, and they're numbered from like 1 to 12, 13. I can't remember the numbers, but everybody has the same number. You play a card face down. Everybody simultaneously reveals them, and then you resolve them from highest number to lowest number. And basically, those cards are you putting astronauts onto the rockets to send to Mars. The rockets have a capacity. When it reaches its capacity, it launches. And all of the cards have different abilities on them that'll sort of muck up the business. Like it'll let you put this many guys on, but you can assassinate a guy off of another, or you can launch a rocket early, or you can move guys around on Mars, all sorts of different things.
Mean scientists.
Right. Well, they're all scientists. Some of them are
horrible.
Some are spies, some of them are explorers, some of them are soldiers, but they're all like, people that want to go to Mars for some reason.
To fight, apparently.
It's the war over Mars' resources.
Get your ass to Mars.
But once you get to Mars, you dump your troops down, or your scientists or whatever they are, onto the territory that it's supposed to go to. And this is where territory control comes in. Because you're trying to control territories on Mars, because each one of those territories is going to produce different minerals. And you collect the minerals as victory points. Now, you can move them around, but not very much. That's the interesting thing, is you can't move them very much, but you can move them. And there's actually like a guy who shoots a ray gun from Phobos and destroys people from on the Mars surface. So yeah, there's some bad stuff going on too.
Grief.
But here's one of the great things about the game too, is that there are these objective cards. And well, I don't know if they're exactly objective cards. You draw these cards and they'll say, put this on a certain spot on Mars. And it's either a good thing or a bad thing. And you know what it is. You put it face down underneath that territory. It could be good. It could be bad. So if you start sending all your guys to that spot, everybody's going to be, oh, something good there. And they all start flooding in. Or if you start to retreat away from it, people are going to be, oh my God, that's terrible. I got to get out of there. Which is awesome because so you can start tricking people. You can say, like, oh, you start flooding your guys out. And you're like, oh shit, we need to get out of there. And then everybody starts to leave. And then last minute, you just go back in. And stuff like that. So man, it's another simple-ish game to play, but I think that the depth of strategy is really strong in this one. And reading the other players and what cards they're going to play and trying to counter those cards and getting on certain spots on Mars, because certain resources are worth more than others. But if you really dump heavy onto the light resources, you'll make more points than the big resources. Stuff like that. Just a great game. It's such an elegantly designed game. I just really enjoy it every time.
It sounds very cool, and I want to watch. I don't even care if I play it with him. I want to see Steve play this game.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I think Steve would be the master of tricking people with the cards he puts down.
Well, I hope so.
Because he is just so good at that. I don't know how he bluffs so well.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be fascinating. I'd like to play this game.
When I'm bluffing, I'm thinking about baseball. But no, Mission Red Planet sounds like a really awesome game. I'd love to give it a shot.
Great. Love it. All right, so my last pick, and for some reason I have a science fiction space theme going. I don't know why. My last one is from my absolute favorite game designer of all time, Martin Wallace. And this one is Onward to Venus. This game is terrific, from the artwork and theme all the way to gameplay. It's just great.
This is the prequel to Merchants of Venus, right?
No.
Yeah.
Onward to Venus is basically, it takes place in like a Renaissance era science fiction where you can go into space during the Renaissance era. And it's steampunky, essentially. So the way the board is you have these planets, obviously our solar system, Earth, Mars, Moon, Jupiter.
Those other places.
Yeah, all those other places. Mercury, I don't think it goes out to Jupiter, but whatever. It has all these planets, and they're tiles that you lay out in a big line. So like the board there's no board, it's just circular tiles that make up the solar system. And you start on Earth, and you start expanding outwards to the other planets. and you can build factories on those planets. You can produce tanks or spaceships on those planets. And each one of those planets has a tile on it, or a number of tiles on it, that have objectives or victory point scoring things or whatever. And you're trying to control these planets via your economy, not via military. Now, you could conquer them via military, but the person who's producing the most resources from the planet is the one who technically controls it. So it's great. It's such a unique way to do the territory area majority style game, and has a lot of resource management, has a lot of randomness even to it.
Yeah. What I think is funny about this game is that you're playing countries like England and Russia, Germany. I always thought that was amusing because it's like, well, I can fight you here on Earth, but instead, we're going to build a lot of rockets. I'll just fight you on another planet.
I love my news resources.
Yeah.
I love the technology cards because they're so, it's like steampunk goofier.
Yeah. It's like, they're like joking.
Crazy. There's like one giant robot, and I think it's like the Punchathon 2000.
Yeah, right,
they're ridiculous. What I dig is that there's when the planets are laid out, there's like the juicy side and the not so juicy side, and there's more planets on the juicy side, but they go out further. So you have to, like, you could go that way. People aren't going to really be competing, but it's going to take a lot longer to get out there.
Yeah.
Or you could sit there and fight for the really juicy planets.
Yeah, like Earth and the Moon and Mars are really, really strong.
Yeah.
But when you get out to the rim, out to the further ends or in towards Earth, the sun, where Mercury is, that's where the evil villain is too.
Yeah.
Like those are kind of weaker, but you could get out there and not have as much contention.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about fighting for this stuff, which I think was very interesting. And I know when we played, I think it was... I think I went last, and I saw everybody else rushing and trying to take control of those inner planets, and I was just like, all right, I'm heading out into space. I'm just going as far as I can.
And by the end game, we're starting to creep out there, and you're not as defended because you thought you were safe.
Yeah,
and it's
it was cool.
Great dynamic to this game. It's just a great game that doesn't take that long either. It's like an hour and a half. This is a straight up like regular old length Euro game kind of game.
Yeah.
But boy, I love it. And there's another thing that I dig about it that I think some people might have a problem with when they talk about it. You can't do direct conflict on planets. There needs to be a tile there called a tension tile, which is like political tension, and then that could erupt in a battle.
Yes.
So you can't actually take over somebody else's planet or attack it unless there's a tension tile there, which I thought was kind of interesting because it made it strategic when and where you do it. Like you have to really build towards going to those tension tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy involved in this game too. And I love the tongue-in-cheek of the cards and the theme. I love the steampunk theme. I mean, this is just a fun game to play.
Yeah.
I remember getting cards, and I'm like, I can't wait to play this card because it's so freaking funny. I can't wait to put it out.
What I love about the tongue-in-cheek funny cards is they're not stupid too.
No, they
like
make
some
sense.
of these jokey cards in games are like, eh. Like these actually are kind of funny. Like they take it seriously in the right way.
Because it looks cool. It looks like something somebody back in those days would come up with.
Right. Exactly.
And it gives it just like a name that you're like, I guess they would come up with that name because they don't know any better.
Yeah. And this is based on like a comic book series that I'm not familiar with at all. It's called like Professor Gorbort's Onward to Venus. That's the name of the game. And I'm not sure what for Gorbort. I don't know him. And like I've seen the comics since the games, and I'm like, I want to get these and read them, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Good pick.
Onward to Venus. One of my favorite from Martin Wallace. Great territory area majority game, whichever it is. I can't think of it right now, but whatever one it is, I love it.
It's both. We'll just say it's both.
Yeah, why not?
All right. Well, that's my 3 picks for area majority territory control games. And I guess that's going to wrap up the series for this week, fellas.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
See ya.
Later.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.